So now, over the weekend, we hear men from the EFCC allegedly went to raid the farm of the CJN. And EFCC comes out to officially deny this allegation. What's happening?
Well,
why am I asking you what's happening? I know.
Your guess is as good as mine, really. But I do believe that it must be a government agency that did the raid. Whether it is the EFCC, the DSS, or another arm of government, we don't know now. But if somebody did the raid, the person should own up and say that I did it and this is the reason why I did it. Government law enforcement agencies have the power of search and seizure.
I was going to take you to legalities because we know some weeks back the CJN did raise should I say alarm, or gave out information that he was being checked by unassigned people. He felt like he was being watched. He came out officially to make that announcement, and then over the weekend on Saturday, we hear this went on, and people working on the farm did say they were men from the EFCC, but journalists who tried to reach EFCC say that they are not the one.
Yes.
They didn't send people to go conduct the raid on the farm.
Yes, so it's a bit worrying to know that people are doing raids and nobody's owning up to the fact that this is the agency that is responsible for this raid. And the entire saga concerning the CJN is getting very sad and confusing to the extent that two judicial bodies are tussling for jurisdiction over the matter. It's never happened in our history. The Code of Conduct Tribunal claims that it has jurisdiction over the matter. Over the same matter, the NJC, the highest body for the discipline of judges in Nigeria, is holding a hearing over the same matter, over the same facts. It's not supposed to happen. It's quite anomalous. So the CJN finds himself in a situation where he's answering to the Code of Conduct Tribunal, at the same time answering to the National Judicial Commission on the same charges. And the person who is responsible for the prosecution at the Code of Conduct Tribunal is the Attorney General of the Federation. The same Attorney General of the Federation forwarded a petition to the National Judicial Commission. It's either one or the other. It can't be both at the same time.
My fear now, Valentine, is when you look at the political climate now, it does look like all roads may lead to an elections petitions tribunal.
Yes.
Ultimately.
Yes.
So should we be concerned about to what extent this current crisis, if I could use that word, with the CJN would affect that?
Well, first of all, the crisis was avoidable. You don't have to remove the CJN in that manner. There were two things that were wrong with the removal of the CJN. One was the timing. It was too close to the elections. It heated up the polity. It gave people room to speculate that there was something more than just the accusation that was on the table. Then beyond that, the mode of removal was unconstitutional. There is no provision in the Constitution for the procedure that has been adopted, really. The only body that can decide that issue is the National Judicial Commission, and the proper way is to send a petition to them, which was belatedly done after the proceedings at the CCT had commenced. That was the first thing first. They put the cart before the horse. Now, if you go to this NJC, you do have to wait for the outcome of the investigation and the pronouncement by the NJC before you take further steps. So there's confusion. There's the government agencies are not acting in concert. They are acting without consulting one another. And because of that, the general public is not, we don't have confidence in what is going on.
So should we have to go to an elections petitions tribunal ultimately to decide on all the electoral processes issues that did go on? What happens?
Now this is this was the question that people were asking before, as soon as they removed the CJN, because the CJN is the person who constitutes the panel for the election tribunal if it eventually gets to the Supreme Court. So
if it is a vacant seat now?
Well, it can never be vacant in that sense, because once the CJN is suspended, the president purportedly swore in Justice Tanko Muhammad as a CJN, which swearing in has been challenged before the same NJC now, because you cannot swear in a CJN without the recommendation of the NJC, and it was done without the recommendation of the NJC. So, I mean, somebody has petitioned asking for Tanko to be removed from office because he knows the rules, and he went ahead and presented himself to the president to be sworn in. Now, if Chanko is out of the way, there's always a most senior judge.
So there is an order in line.
Yes.
So let's go to the elections petitions now, one of which could be the case now, the latest one, or the ongoing one, being the PDP's flag bearer.
Yes.
Asking the Independent National Electoral Commission to grant him access to check the elections materials. Now, I know he's got a court order from the appeal court on March 6th.
Yes.
According to the PDP, they've written to INEC asking for permission to access these materials, but they are being denied. At what point does INEC's non-compliance or delay in compliance become a matter for legalities?
Well, there's a procedure for communicating court processes to litigants. If you have a court order, you get the bailiff of the court to serve it on INEC. I guess PDP merely wrote and they haven't gotten a court bailiff to serve them. A court bailiff will serve them, get the proof of service, and put it inside the court's file. If they do not comply, the lawyers of the PDP know what to do.
So there could have been procedural issues?
Yes, there could have been procedural issues. From what I read, from what INEC was saying, they said they haven't received the order. That is to say that...
Due process must be followed.
Yes.
We know the Court of Appeal has granted you access, but you need to write.
Yes, you need to get the proper person to serve us the order of court. It has to be conveyed to them by a bailiff of the court. So
now the PDP has gone to press to say that any further delay by INEC might attract public odium, which brought the question I was asking you earlier before the show. Whose interest?
Well, public odium is quite different from the sanction of court. If INEC is served with court processes properly and they refuse to comply, then they are in contempt. That is one aspect of it. But yes, whose interests are they protecting? Well, first of all, Nigeria is a constitutional democracy. And because of that, going to the tribunal, if you feel aggrieved after an election, is part of the democratic process. So they have every right. The doors of the court must remain open to everybody. And if they feel aggrieved, they must ventilate their grievances.
Doors of the court must remain open. Thank you very much for your time and thoughts on the show this morning, Valentine.
Thank you.